You want them to sign?
Thank you.
Okay. We got 15 seconds.
Pete.
Better go get your shovel.
This one? I'll send you some photos. Okay, good luck, man.
Okay. Good to go, Pete.
Have a good ride.
Are they picking at their food, or are they really hammering it down? They might be a little less aggressive about eating when they first get here. Might be. But in 24 hours, at that second meal, you want to see those dogs stand up and really chow down and put in some calories. Also, as we saw back in Takotna, those teams on the 24, by the time we were leaving, they'd had a good sleep, and the mushers were out walking them around on a lead line, just letting them get up and stretch and get up off their straw, go for a little walk. A lot of the mushers would take two at a time, and they'd kind of bump and play with each other like a dog off in a town, a pet out for a stroll. What they're looking for there is just freedom of movement. Are they loose? Do they look like they're comfortable, just kind of bouncing around like this? What you're looking for is any soreness or stiffness in a muscle that might need to be massaged, just like you would do with any human athlete. Let's face it, they're made of the exact same thing. They're bone, muscle, sinew, so they have the same feelings in their bodies as we do in heavy athletic competition. But let me set the stage here a little bit where we're at. Like you said, it's about a balmy 15 below. Perfect for someone like you that just really and me who really enjoys this.
Yeah.
I feel for those people down there, where it's hot and clammy. So it's a perfect morning, like Greg said, sun coming up. But what we've got here is a bit of a temperature inversion. You see these flakes falling? That kind of means something to a person who watches the weather like a musher does. What this is really dry crystalline snow that's falling high up. It's not a super real snowstorm. These are really high altitude frozen flakes that are coming down, and they're coming down like ice crystals. And what that means, translated to a musher, is there's going to be a lot of drag in this snow. It's not going to have a lot of glide. Same as a downhill skier or cross-country skier would look at this. So they want to pick the correct plastic to have the least amount of resistance as possible. It's not going to be a difficult trail, but you're not going to get any extra from Mother Nature as you might at a warmer temperature. So again, it's always interesting to see the speed of teams compared to each other, because that kind of gives you an idea of not only about where the team's at, but more importantly, what the trail condition is. So this stuff that maybe is showing up on the camera is just falling down. That's kind of a crystalline, very angular snow versus a snow that would be maybe 30 degrees above, about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or excuse me, Celsius. Not quite that warm, but you can get a lot of glide after a couple of teams go over it because it kind of becomes icy then. So I don't expect these speeds to be, from the teams coming up, and travel times a whole lot different than what we saw with these, with the exception that those teams are going to be more rested coming up here.
Okay, so obviously Brent Sass was the first musher to arrive here in Cripple. He picked up the GCI Dorothy G. Page Half Point Award. The question I have for you, Bruce, is that he indicated in our interview that we did with him that he's only got one dog in that team that has been a Nome before. And so as this race progresses and it begins to heat up and the pressure kind of grows on these mushers to make all the right decisions, how important is it, or is it important at all that he's only got one dog that's run this race to the finish line?
Well, that's a good question and observation, Greg, because it's always nice. Sled dogs have incredible memories of where a trail is. And actually, sometimes in a really big windstorm, like we saw Dallas and Allie and Jeff King in years ago, sometimes the best thing to do with dogs that know a trail and that are really good leaders is just sit back and do nothing. Observe, but let them make the decisions in finding the trail sometimes, because they have a better sense of smell than us. They have incredible memories, and they can feel that trail with their feet too. Those are unique sled dogs, but they're really good at finding the trail, and the whole team can sense sometimes where the trail is and know that they're going. I'm going to use the term going home. However, I mean, they're a well-trained team. You and I both have observed and said that, there's just power in that team. They aren't maybe familiar with this race, but they are Yukon Quest Trail hardened this year and the champion team. As long as Brent doesn't do anything to damage or push that bond of trust, that he's always going to get them to a resting point. Just keep going, guys. It's up there. And so far in the quest and in his training and to this point, he hasn't. But if you ever get that doubt and it goes beyond their sense of, I know the checkpoint is right up here. I know the finish line is right up here. But Brent seems to have the type of dogs that they don't really care where the finish line is. I think they would go to the ends of the earth. I mean, I think they'd eat a meal, rest in Nome, and get up and head right to Kamchatka across the Bering Sea. I really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a sense of that, where the finish line is and where they're going. But it's just important to keep that trust, set them up to succeed, challenge them, but never damage that bond, that trust that you have with the dogs.
And those will be very important factors as this race progresses and the miles get long in the tooth for these teams traveling to Nome.